I'm Rebecca Combs. I'd like to talk to you today about counted patterns in Kumihimo. What is a counted pattern? What isn't a counted pattern? And then when you're reading through the instructions in your kit, how do you follow along on a counted pattern chart? Let's start by taking a look at some counted pattern projects. So what I mean by a counted pattern is that's any time on a given warp, you're not just stringing the same thing. So here in this necklace, we have 3 different types of beads. There are spikes, there are 15s, and there are size 8 seed beads. But these are not arranged such so that any given warp has only one type of bead. Each warp has at least 2 different types of beads. Therefore, you have to string them in a specific order in order to achieve this pattern. Same thing here. In this one, where we have a color fade, we're fading from solid black to a bead soup and then back to solid black. So here they're all the same type of bead. They're all size 8 seed beads, but we're doing a little bit of color blocking to achieve this ombre effect. So you have to string on each warp so many of the black seed beads and then so many of your bead soup and then so many black in order to get that color change effect. Same thing is happening over here, different type of beads. These are size 8 demi beads. So these are some examples of what a counted pattern looks like once it's braided up. What does a non-counted pattern look like? This one, we have lots of different colors of size 8 seed beads here, but there's no pattern. This was bead soup. We just had a random mix of beads. We put it in the bead spinner, spun it, strung it. No pattern, no counting. Other than, you need so many beads per warp. In this one, we have 2 different types of beads, but on any given warp, there's only one type of bead. All right, so half of the warps have these little faceted beads and half the warps have these size 8 seed beads that are in there. So if we're gonna have a counted pattern, we're gonna open up our kit and you'll have something like this. You're going to start by looking at this starting diagram. So this is a drawing that represents your Kumihimo disc. So these are the warp numbers. You could also think of that as the bobbin number. The warp refers to the string and then the bobbin is what holds it, right? So they're the same thing. So warp 1, warp 2, warp 3, warp 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It matters how these are arranged around the disc. You cannot change this order and have your pattern come out the way I wrote it. Do all Kumihimo designers arrange their warps the same way? No, they do not. I arrange them this way because this is the order in which the warps move, right? Top right down, that's warp number 1. Bottom left up, that's warp number 2. Turn the disc, top right down, that's warp number 3. Bottom left up, that's warp number 4, and so on around. So whether you get your kit or your pattern from me or from some other designer, that kit or pattern should include a starting diagram and you must arrange your numbered warps just like that. You can't make any changes. All right, other ways you might see them, sometimes people number them just like in numeric order. And if you took my pattern and you arranged it like this, you would get gibberish. So always check your starting diagram in whatever pattern you're working with. Next up, you'll see that we have a sort of a recipe card for each of our warps. Generally, you will have some size options. For this example, I'm looking at a project and this chart says it's going to be a 9-inch finished length bracelet and that'll fit an 8-inch wrist. That's because you have to account for the thickness of the beads as they go around your wrist. Here in my kit, I have my beads and they came labeled. So I have size 11 seed beads, Demis, color A, demis, color B, demis, color C. And what I like to do is I like to make little puddles of these on my beading mat. Pro tip, don't completely empty the bag until you absolutely have to. Leave some in there so that you remember which color is what letter. Okay, let's take a look at this chart. For this example, I know you didn't want to watch me string beads all day. I have already strung up warps 1 through 7. We're just going to look at warp number 8. It's calling for 1 size 11. This is size 18 superlon, and as noted elsewhere in the instructions, when you need to string size 11s on size 18 superlon, you won't be able to use a needle for that. So you're just going to pop on that one bead, slide it on. All right, now I can use my big eye needle for the rest of these. 27A, 3C, 2B, 3A, 27C. Okay, for my 27, color A, 27 is not like a huge number, but it's bigger than 10. So this is how I'm gonna count. I'm gonna count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's my 10. And I'm gonna use these 11s like a little abacus. So I'm gonna pull 1 11 over here. It's tiny. There it is. So I know that I have strung one group of 10. I'm gonna push that down onto my thread. And now I'm going to do it again because I'm aiming for 27. That's my second group of 10. So I'm going to pull another size 11 seed bead over here to mark that I have strung up 2 groups of 10, and now I just count to 7. I scoop my little abacus beads back into their pile. Next up, 3, color C. That's easy. 1, 2, 3. 2, color B. 3, color A. And now I'm at 27C. I'm going to use the abacus method again. Some people like to count their beads out before they string them, right? So just like count them into little piles. I find it's actually easier for me to move the beads around with my needle, so that's why I count them this way. All right, that's my 27. And the last thing it calls for is 1 11. So I need to take off my big eye needle, and I will just pick up one size 11 and stick that on here. And then I'm going to tie an overhand knot and wind this onto my numbered bobbin. You can write directly on the metal with Sharpie, but I do find that just like the pressure of my hands takes off the Sharpie mark over time, so I've put some stickers on there. There you go. That's what the whole set of that looks like. Excellent. I just want to talk about one more type of counted pattern you might encounter. So here's a sample from another project. So south warps 2 and 5. So looking at our starting diagram, north, south, east, west. So south is warps 2 and 5. So both of these warps get the same exact thing. You just string them up one at a time, obviously. So this one wants 30 size 8 seed beads. And then, this is kind of interesting, we have 10 times, and then we have some stuff in a bracket. So inside the bracket we have 3 8s, 1 teardrop. So that's a unit. So in this case, I would string 10 groups of 3/8, 1 teardrop. So this whole section here, that's 40 beads, right? Because there are 4 beads in my group, 10 groups. So 10 repeating units of 8, 8, 8 teardrop. All right, just do that 10 times over, and then 38. So that's just another type of notation you might see when there's a repeating pattern rather than having your beads in big groups. I hope that helps you when you are stringing counted patterns. As you can see, there's really nothing to it. You just need to look at the stringing diagram and just follow your way through. Sometimes it's helpful to get a Post-it or other piece of paper to sort of mark off where you are so you don't get confused. And of course, double check your counts.